Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Very good friend came by today, and he was telling everyone in town of the love that he had found. And Pearlie's the name of his latest flame. Ba-ba-da, ba-doom, boom, ba. Ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee-dee-dee. I wished him luck and then I said goodbye. He was gone, but still his words kept returning. What else was there for me to do but cry?
Hello?
Yo, Paul, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
There we go.
Very well, thank you. How nice to hear your voice.
Yeah. It's a little bit raspy, but it'll do.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining our podcast. And I know Alex has got a couple of questions for you. I'm going to let Alex take the ball, and then I'll step back in here. And again, I just thank you so much for taking time of your day to talk with us.
My pleasure.
So I think that because we normally talk about movie stuff because Pablo is the curator of an ongoing film series, the International Film Series in Boulder, Colorado. And so we normally talk about movies. And somehow in our last conversation or in a conversation, great comic books that never got turned into movies came up. And that obviously raised the specter of the fabulous furry freaks. And I wondered, because I remember years ago hearing stories about attempts made by studios and independent producers to make the freaks into a film. But can you remember any of those stories now?
Well, I wasn't actually involved in the deals, but I sure saw a lot of scripts pass through my fingers and shuddered at most of them since they were kind of done with somebody, generally by somebody who wasn't good at comedy writing. It's a strip that tells jokes, more or less, not stand-up jokes, but it's a humor strip.
It's a humorous strip, and it has funny
really
characters.
Have that, you don't really have much aside from three hippies. But I do have to say that in the meantime, finally, Gilbert signed some kind of deal with a company down in Southern California to produce a Freak Brother cartoon show series.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Not standalone cartoons. They kind of look like they're done in the style or stylish of the Family Guy comics. And I'm not involved in any of it currently, so it remains to be seen what will come of that.
I remember once you read one series of scripts and they had been instructed to take the drugs out. That must have been an interesting variant of the story.
Yeah. Another one just kind of didn't. I mean, if you didn't get it, it's kind of hard to work with the characters.
I mean, at least now, with as far as like media is concerned, things have loosened up a bit, and they can actually get really stoned and have hallucinations. And
I'm not sure that might still apply with this comic show, depending on where they want to put it. The samples I've seen seem to have the Freak Brothers doing everything but actually smoking marijuana. They chase it around and all that, but not so it's an act of frustration. I I get the feeling that they don't want to have open drug use on, but I could be wrong.
Well, it'll be very interesting to discover, because obviously we Freak Brothers purists will freak out if there isn't considerable bong hoovering, you know. But that's very interesting. So I'm excited. I didn't know that. So it's opportune that this may be the first. This may be an exclusive for our podcast.
Well, they've been rushing around promoting this thing on Zoom and at even some type of comic panel type things announcing it, and managed to get John Goodman and Woody Harrelson in as voice actors. So
who plays which character?
I think Harrelson plays Freewheelin' Franklin, and Goodman must be Fat Freddy.
And what about the third brother?
The clever one. I forget who that is. Like I said, it's not my project, and I'm currently not associated with it.
Yeah,
which
I'm
be a terrible disappointment for me, or maybe a blessing. Who can say?
It could be a blessing, you never know. But I'm spacing on the name of the third brother, because there was Fat Freddy, Freewheelin' Franklin.
Phineas, the actual character, yeah.
Phineas Freak, yes, of course. And Phineas was the genius one. Phineas was the inventor.
Yeah.
Who could keep the bus running and that kind of. Yeah, I remember. Okay, well, my other trip down memory lane for you is, a long time ago, we were making a film in Nicaragua called Walker. And we asked you to do the poster for it. And we went to the head of the studio of Universal Pictures and got his permission for you to design the poster. Do you remember any of that?
Yes, quite a bit. It was a oddly gnarly assignment, given. Well, I had to produce the artwork during a crazy heat wave, which made every step of using the art materials I chose a nightmare.
Yeah, and you weren't doing this on a computer, right? You were actually
no. This is before computer days. It was actually all hand drawn and hand painted, and the primitive, like the primitives used to do.
Yeah, on the walls of caves. Yeah. But I remember, though, it was peculiarly, like every aspect of Walker, it was extra difficult because the head of the studio wanted to impress us with how hip he was, and so, hey, if you want to get this Freak Brothers guy, Mavrides, to do the poster, sure, go ahead, And he said that to us, to me and Lorenzo, the producer, but he didn't say it to anybody else.
I know. So when I encountered Universal's art director, he was absolutely appalled by the idea and fought it until he was told he had to work with me, which he didn't care for at all. But he ground his teeth together and basically said, "You're the boss. Do whatever you want." And then didn't give me any help.
But and the actual idea of it, if they had ever put 10 posters in a row, which of course they never did, but the idea was to have these incredibly vivid bands of bright color, of bright yellow,
it would have been great. Red. And they backed down from. I made the figure of Walker central in the poster as a blank-faced cipher.
Perfect.
Well, that was my reasoning and explanation for it. The actual reason was that the studio wouldn't provide me with any photos of Ed Harris. Until they saw the artwork, and then they became terrified that there wasn't a star's face on the image, so they actually brought me down to L.A. and had me go through slides and frames of the film until I found a likeness. Because despite that desire to have me paint Ed's face in, they still couldn't provide me with any PR shots or anything.
And also, it had to be done a certain way because you couldn't just do just a likeness of his face from a photograph. You had to stylize it so it fitted the
It took a little
poster.
bit of work, but it wasn't that difficult.
You worked it. No, I remember you really worked at it, and you did several variants of it. It was a struggle before you found that.
Everything. I remember doing the soundtrack album cover, front and back, for Joe's.
Yeah, for Joe Strummer.
Right, and that ran into headaches because I based the front cover was the poster. That was easy enough to move that around. But the back cover, I used a frame of the film from one of the massacre scenes with one of the actors on his knees pleading with face down bodies around him. Nothing too grisly. But I had to use frames of the film, and I took them into a photo lab to blow up so I could colorize the picture by hand and kind of make it look antique a little bit, give it some texture. And when I came in to pick up the enlargement, everybody in the place went quiet, and finally I think the owner of the shop got called down to talk to me and gently and nervously asked me if they were real photos. Wow. They were concerned that I had, they didn't know that they came from a movie and they couldn't tell how old they were. They were, current photos. They were worried that I was blowing up photos of some kind of massacre.
These were your murder victims.
Yep. Wow. And even just the same, they, I think whoever the record company was, retouched the back cover art to remove some of the blood.
It was virgin, and they were completely incompetent because
they were terrified. They said, American teenagers aren't into blood. And
no. And we had this amazing idea that the album could come out at the same time as the film came out. It was this unbelievably smart kind of innovative idea that the album and the film release would be coordinated.
By poster. It saved the movie and the Sandinista Revolution.
And one more thing about the poster, that you were the only poster artist of whom I am aware who was able to get his signature on the poster.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess I did.
You concealed your signature among the burning buildings and the wreckage of the city of Granada.
Snuck a church on fire into that.
That's right. There's a burning church on the poster as well. So yes. So thank you for that very beautiful poster, which when I was teaching at CU Boulder, I used to have it framed in my office above my desk, so the students would all know where I was coming from. And Pablo now has that adorning his wall.
It's right around the corner. It's right around the corner.
Well, just as a evidence of how I didn't know what I was doing, the original artwork for the poster is larger than the poster.
That's pretty
I
sweet.
figured, you always make the art bigger and then photograph it down. But it's impractical at that size, as I discovered, to my horror, and a lot more work than it needs to be.
It's we actually. I also want to just add that we had Universal cut us a 35 millimeter print from their negatives, so that we have a 35 print of Walker in the archives over here at CU Boulder. And if you ever want to see it, Paul, we got reel-to-reel projectors, a nice 400-seat auditorium. Yeah, we'll be happy to give you a private screening. Last time I saw it with Alex, we sat in the back with a cooler of beers, and and enjoyed the show. It was a great way to watch a great movie. I do want to ask you really quickly some thoughts from you about the J.R. Bob Dobbs and the Church of the Subgenius, both the documentary and, of course, the church itself. But I haven't seen the doc. I want to. I only just now discovered, looking it up on IMDb, that the associate producer for J.R. Bob Dobbs, I think actually she was the director for J.R. Sandy Boone. She was the associate producer for Last Night at the Alamo, which is a film that I've been talking up to Alex for quite a while.
Yeah, we watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a cool connection.
Yeah, well, Sandy's from Austin, and well, she was actually her first husband, who died young, was one of the three fellows from Dallas who kind of initially sketched out the whole concept of the public outing of the Subgenius outreach program, and he didn't. He unfortunately got, was not a major contributor, but he was there at the beginning, and she wasn't really paying much attention to it at that point because there wasn't much to pay attention to. But later on, as it blossomed and grew like a fungus throughout our culture, she thought about revisiting it and checking it out. And, her own husband, we called him Dr. X, but his name was David Boone, had his own short cinematic career with a film called The Attack of the Aluminum People. An independent, student-type film or experimental, which is how he probably met up with Ivan Stang, the main founder of the whole shebang. Well, the documentary, people can't tell if it's a cult or a joke or both or neither. And the documentary doesn't clear any of that up, even though an attempt is made to paint it as harmless.
Well,
and indeed, it's my conjecture. And in fact, I'm kind of the Eeyore of the organization. So I'll just say that the real outfit is the Subgenius Foundation, which doesn't ask for new members, and in fact created the Church of the Subgenius to draw people away from it.
You have quite a list of illustrious colleagues who are also associates of the Church of the Subgenius. Some members of Devo, Mojo Nixon, Paul Rubens. And actually, I remember seeing Negative-Land when they came through campus years ago, and it was they put on a great show. And then, of course, R. Crumb. So well, like I said, it's a virus, and once it grabs onto you, it doesn't let you.
But how does it work though? If R. Crumb has also illustrated the Old Testament while being a member of the Church of Subgenius, so isn't he guilty in the eyes of J.R. Bob Dobbs of apostasy?
Oh, no. The deal with the church is you can believe in any old thing you want and as many different conflicting beliefs as you care to juggle all at the same time. And if it becomes too burdensome, you can just throw it all down on the ground and rebuild it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's
like
very
a
sensible.
Salad bar full of spoiled ideas.
Salad bar for spoiled ideas.
I have to add that I think it's interesting that we're talking about, the Church of the Subgenius that was focused on J.R. Bob Dobbs, for whom Slack was a very important concept. And I just, like a week and a half ago, read the obituary for Bob Biggs, who was the founder of Slash Records, which of course signed on, Germs and X and Fear, which were big influences on the soundtrack for Repo Man. So, I feel like there's something weird in the air.
Actually, what I met Alex when he was in town. I don't know.
Promoting some film must have been promoting Repo Man, I guess, or promoting.
Yeah, you were promoting it after, I guess, the New York City showing convinced them it had urban legs, and
it got a re-release. That's right. Yeah,
bestowed me with the job of doing the print campaign for it.
Well, that's right. That's right. You did the. Oh, you did the. That was great. Yeah, Otto's POV.
Yeah.
Or rather, Otto. Yeah. That was superb. That was the best poster.
Oh, I got to tell you, I asked Universal to send me what all the things that they had tried out and didn't like, just so I could see what they were. It was horrifying. There were like 50 attempts at a poster, and each one was worse and more clueless than the one before it.
Oh, no, it's truly amazing. It's truly amazing. The quality of the help that they
Well, they just didn't understand what the movie was.
No, that's true. That's true.
And they tried to sell it to every audience but the appropriate one.
How could that be?
Spent some time making a movie myself, a documentary with my Canadian documentary director friend Ron Mann.
About what?
About marijuana. It was called Grass.
I think we screened that at the International Film Series.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Ron conceded that I should have been co-director, but given Canadian funding, I couldn't be because I'm an American, which is understandable.
Quite right,
even
too.
More so now. Yeah.
But hey, how many states legalized grass today?
I mean,
Several.
It was a history of marijuana prohibition, and with a definite spin towards arguing for its legalization, and what a waste of time prohibition is on every marker, and it helped like everything else.
No, it's good, and I mean, and just today we have seen several states behave far more sensibly than either of the major parties in terms of legalization. And
Oregon even kind of legalized just about everything there is in small quantities.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a misdemeanor now. You can actually go around with hard drugs in small quantities without going to prison for the rest of your life, and it's an amazing change. An amazing change. It's really great,
I know. It seems odd to get a senior discount on my...
I insist on my senior discount.
I've never heard of the Freak Brothers.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, me too. I'm so glad that you had the time to chat to us because it enlivened our babbling.
I'll look forward to having another brief conversation with Alex in 20 years more.
Exactly. Well, when we're in our mid-80s, we'll speak again. Good.
All right. Well, good to talk to both of you, Alex and Pablo, and thank you again for bringing me into your blog.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's been an honor. I just want to say I actually grew up, even as a small child. There was a head shop on my way to school, and I always walked in, and no one ever kept me from going in. And I would read the underground comics, and that was just wow! It was so eye-opening. It really twisted and deranged my mind in ways that I'm ever so thankful for. And you're part of that rich legacy. So
me too. Yeah. Me too. Absolutely the same.
The head shops were terrified that somebody would accuse them of having these comic books to lure children in.
And they did.
Now you just proved that it was true.
They did.
Yep.
Me too. I was one of those children.
Well, there's even an outtake of me dealing underground comic books to children outside of out on the sidewalks of the city on the Blu-ray version of Ron Mann's documentary about the history of American comics snapshot of the late 80s called Comic Book Confidential.
Yes. Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Take care, and
You
talk
too.
to you later.
Thank you so much for
very
joining.
much.
All right.
All
We'll
right.
speak more.
All right. Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, that was nice talking to Paul. What a nice chap, huh?
Yeah. And not too long.
Oh, he's still there.
What is it, a 20-minute show? Or?
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.